something tangible that you can sell, to something that changes the way you do business. And if I were to title this, I would call solving the problem of an identity mismatch. So if you think about that, oftentimes people identify as one thing, but they actually don't live out what they identify themselves as. And so TW3 is here to fix that. Now my role as a business owner, a business coach, a consultant, one who facilitates, my reason for being, my mission is to help establish and build cultures that are of excellence. And my life's work is to stimulate high performance in people who reach significance, and the follow to that is success. A lot of folks who are in the business coaching world will produce success, but not necessarily significance. I'm trying to go deeper than just make people successful. So I introduced to you the TW3. Now what you're looking at here is a picture of my wife and I teaching a group of folks in far northeastern India. This is in Manipur province. It's the Tangkul. There were 500 people. The town where we were in was at about 10,000 feet in the Himalayan foothills, and there were 500 people who came to the meeting, and only 500 people lived in the village. So we go to remote parts of the world to teach the kind of stuff that we teach here. And have you ever seen that guy? Do you have that person that you've worked with who says one thing, but has the problem of not living to coincide with what they're talking about? Have you ever been around that kind of person? They blah, 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 blah all day long about, well, this and that, but when they go to live out their actions, they do not mesh. And the problem with that is they may be, oh, you can deal with them for a little while, but at some point you get to be a little disagreeable with them, and then angry, and at some point, if you're the boss, you find a way to move them off into another department, and they screw up and move up to somebody else's role, right? And what I want to talk to you about is these folks tend to create conflict, and it's not just internal in themselves, but it creates conflict around them. Now, when you try to change that, there's got to be some sort of intervention. If you just leave this alone, it's self-perpetuating. People who live like that will talk, they feel good when they're talking, they don't change their behavior, so how do you fix that? It requires a culture change. Now, my experience tells me, I've been consulting since '99 in this world of change, there are two ways that you can create change. One is top-down. This requires significant effort from above. There's a pressure that moves downward to create in the people the desire, we'll call it desire, although it may not, it's the save your job desire to change. Or there is the bottom up, which is much more sustainable, but it's longer, it takes longer, it has to be nurtured, but the thing about it is bottom up culture change tends to be regenerative of its own self. In other words, you don't have to be ever driving this thing down into people, but it starts to change from within, and that change can be sustained. Now, when you're doing change, I am of the belief that culture change actually starts within the individual. So, what I value, the things that are important to me, affect what I think about, and you notice the thinker here has a Samsung, so it's not an iPhone. And that changes how I act. So on the left, I'm teaching here with the Chinese interpreter in the Mandarin at a church in San Jose, one of the larger Chinese churches in San Jose. But what I value has to affect the way I think, which will affect how I behave. And if you want to change culture, it has to start from within. So the challenge that we see at TW3 is, what do we do about the pesky gap between teachings and practice? The sermons, the ethics courses, the business requirements, the audits that are about ethics, and how about the living out of those things in the time that's past the audit, past the class, past the workshop? So that's the changer, the challenge that we faced, and we believe that TW3 is our answer to change the culture. So when you talk about transformation, if you look at the original word in transformation, there's a Greek word, metamorpho, from which we get metamorphosis. And you know that metamorphosis takes a creepy crawler that walks only on the ground, eats leaves and such as that, converts it into a 3-week packing trip where they get in a sleeping bag, and when they come out, they're not the same thing that went into the sleeping bag. And that's a one-way change. I was told by a biologist that none of the caterpillars that are transformed by metamorphosis they're sterile until they become butterflies. And what I see, much of what we do with our ethics and our sermonology is we create sterile people who mimic and talk about stuff, but they don't actually practice it. And so metamorphosis, transformation, is three parts. It transforms the worker on the inside, which transforms how they work, and that leads to changing their workplace. And to bring lasting change, which is our purpose, we believe it has to start from within. It has to have created a sustained or sustainable pressure, allow time to grow organically, create new expectations in and of the people who are listening, and then you send them back into the community to be salt and light. Now, that's referring to a scripture in Matthew. And I don't know how many of you read the teachings of Jesus, but when he speaks in Matthew, he's talking to the followers that were with him at that point, early in his ministry, and he said this, "Let me tell you why you are here. You're here to be salt seasoning that brings out the flavor of God, the God flavors in the earth." Or here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. So the way we do this is by creating a venue with monthly gatherings. We do workplace topics that are taught from a biblical perspective. This is not munch, listen, and leave. There's a lot of things that you go to there. You munch, you talk with each other, you kind of do a BNI thing where it's, give me your card, I'll give you my card, we'll talk later. But this is munch, listen, and then digest and dialogue together about the topic. For those of you who study training and development and work in the world of facilitation, you know that the average listener to a lecture, if they don't in any other way participate, they'll take home 5% of what they hear. When you dialogue about the topic, in the time that you're there, that increases tenfold, 50%. The retention jumps significantly. So in every one of the times that we teach at these luncheons, people have 10 minutes of time to dialogue about what they've been learning. You got actionable takeaways that change you that day, and what's been found is that people are developing new and lasting relationships. So we started our first workshop, our first TW3 luncheon in August, and last month there are people who are now saying, can't wait to see so-and-so, because this is the one place where they encounter one another. So what does this look like? Here's some pictures from the Christmas luncheon. People take notes during the meeting, but they get a chance to talk about these things while they're together. And the impact, so the outcome, what's the long-term impact? If you think vision, mission, values, and you go, okay, that's purpose, that's the way we do it. What's the outcome, the impact? Here's a quote that was not first on Pinterest and later attributed to Gandhi. He actually said this. I think there's a quote on Pinterest that said, Gandhi says, not everything that is on Pinterest is actually me quoting it. He said, I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. So the impact of what we're doing with TW3 luncheons is to create a change of behavior in the people, and our mission is to actually eradicate the behavior that gives place to this statement. The statement is so true, but the behavior is so false, and what we're trying to do is eradicate that. You can find us on Facebook. We have a website, TW3Lubbock.com, and our next meeting is less than 3 weeks away. The clock ticks on our website, and you'll see it ticking down if you go there. And at this point in time, we're actually diving deeply into the topic of creating elastic change. So since January, on a monthly basis, we're talking about creating lasting change. The next topic at the end of this month, April 24th, will be about change your thinking, which will change your behavior. What I want to say to you at 1 Million Cups is you're invited. We'd like to have you come. Thank you. Yes.
Go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, could you talk to everybody a little bit about how the structure of the leadership for TW3 is set?
Okay, this grew organically. I sat down with a friend over coffee at JMB one day, and I said to her, we are thinking about doing something in Lubbock, which you would think is here already, but it's not. In Albuquerque, we lived in Albuquerque for 15 years, and there's a group there that's called Christ in the Workplace, and they do luncheons similar to this. And when we got ready to start doing it, Vicki and I talked with the guys who founded it, and they said, here are the things you don't want to do. Do these things. Here's a book. You just take all of our information. We sat down in about an hour. We did a brain dump. We said, okay, we're going to see if there's anyone interested. So we talked to some folks here in the city. This first gal, I said, would you do me a favor? I'm a person of faith, so I said to her, would you be willing to pray about maybe helping us out with starting something here that would give workplace, because she consults in business, and she said a lot of times I run into people who are owners of business who proclaim very loudly that they're believers, they have strong faith, but they are greedy, they are very evil competitors, they're not nice people, and I work for them, and sometimes I try to change their behavior and it's not working. And so I said, well, would you pray about this? And she goes, I prayed, I'm in. And so literally we said, well, let's call some friends. So we called some friends. We had a first meeting in July last year just to see if there was an interest. And several people said, yes, I would like to help. So we have a team who are a nucleus, and we gather, and they're the ones behind the scenes that help do all this stuff. We had to create the website. We have a ministry which already has the nonprofit, so we were able to tuck this up underneath the nonprofit. We didn't have to create that. But here in the city, there's about 10 or 12 folks who are in the nucleus team that help us do all the work behind the scenes. Yes?
I think you answered my question in Amy's. I was going to ask how it's structured, if it's a not-for-profit, if there's membership fees.
There are no membership fees. So the lunch fee is $20. We pay the Lake Ridge Country Club $17.50. And we said we cannot exceed, this one of the guys in Albuquerque said, whatever you do, don't charge 15 and pay 30 for the lunch, because that ain't working. They actually had that experience where the hotel has raised their fees, and now they're not collecting enough to pay for them, so they have the business people who are associated with them. In a nonprofit, it's not wrong to make a profit, but it is wrong to go upside down and get belly up because you didn't think about what's the strategy to make it work. So we gather, you can register online. The best way to pay for our sake is if you register online, that's where we get the greatest increase, or if you pay either cash or by check. The credit card Stripe is, I think they charge 88 cents on the $20. There's no membership. This is not something where you have to come each month. It is regularly scheduled on the fourth Tuesday of the month. Some of you are in meetings on the Tuesday, every Tuesday of the month. We've got friends who are board members of certain organizations, their meetings on the fourth Tuesday. So when we have 5 Tuesdays, then it's the last Tuesday and they can come. So it's just that kind of thing. There is no perfect day for such a thing. Yes?
Okay, you said your team is 12 people, or
Yes.
who speaks at the luncheons? Is it just those people? Do y'all like guest speakers, or how does that?
At this point, I'm doing the speaking.
You are?
Every month, yes. There's some of that nucleus that if you said you will speak, they would say, I'm not on the nucleus. Anymore. I'm out of here.
How many total luncheons have y'all had so far?
We started in August, so August, September, October, November. We didn't do Christmas because it would have been the 26th. And then January, February, March, so this will be the 8th one.
Okay, and is it like the same general message, or does it vary?
Okay, so the topics are always going to be workplace issues. So the first 2 topics were dealing with conflict in the workplace. How do we handle that? The third one was something about change, I believe. And then when we got into the new year, we just got into this, how do we create lasting change? So we've talked about what is change, what does change do to me, why are we reticent to change, some of those things. We've been talking about thinking. This month will be not just thinking, what thinking does, but how behaviors change based upon that.
So when you go to each meeting, do they bounce back off of the past meeting?
They
Or is
can
it like
connect.
you want to not know what happened in the last
I
one?
interrupt.
Like skip
Say
one?
again. Say again. I'm sorry.
Or like if someone misses a month, are they going to be confused on like the past?
Will they be
month?
out of the loop?
Yeah.
No. Because if there's something that was really important from the last one, we'll draw that, put it into this one. Just so, and you know, the talk time is somewhere around 25 minutes. And so it's short enough that we have to quickly put stuff in, dump it in, and then go forward with the topic. It's not meant to be a connected where you have to come to that one to get to this one. Also, we're putting the workshops online. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. I think I may have to do, no, there we go, sorry. So if you go to the website, actually if you go to Facebook, you can see on our Facebook page, we're putting all the videos on there. So you can see that we have a video page where we also do the video. Good question.
Have y'all ever done a live video on Facebook where it's like interactive?
I have done a couple walking around while we're prepping, but no one at this point has said, I will help you, Tom, because right now it's just big enough to get everything set up and rolling and try to do it. We don't have yet those that facility. It would be great to do.
Yeah, it is really cool to interactive on Facebook Live, you know, someone, you know, behind the.
Somebody sitting there, yes, maybe you'd like to come and help us.
You're
You're invited, yes.
free on Tuesdays.
You're not free on
No,
Tuesdays.
you're free.
You are, awesome, that's your invitation.
Did you already say how many have been coming consistently?
So we started the first luncheon, there were about 26. It grew up to, by the end of the year, we were at about 30-some. We changed venues. We started out in Campese's in their little room, and Frank Sinatra playing in the background, and the darkened room was kind of hard. The atmosphere didn't quite match. We moved to the Lake Ridge Country Club, and there we were at 58 or 60 last month. So it's beginning to grow. And we're doing this organically, so it's not like a bunch of blasts. We all events Lubbock, and we'll use Christian radio stations in the city as well as through the newspaper, and then a lot of it's just Facebook posts. But of course, you know what the SEO, the way that Facebook has changed, unless you have a friend talking to a friend who's blasting this forward, it kind of gets to a limited small group. Especially those nonprofits which reflect any kind of a spiritual odor, those are tamped down slightly.
Any other questions?
Do you have any plans, excuse me, to grow this outside of the Lubbock area?
At this time, what we would really like to do is grow it to where it's strong enough that we could have actually other speakers also working. We've had some guests come and attend and say, please send me the video when you're done so that I can show it to my team in my office, that sort of thing. The reality behind this is it really based a whole, the guys in Albuquerque said this, we've tried to reproduce what's going on at Faith at Work in Albuquerque and other places. A guy in Phoenix wanted to do it, a guy in Dallas wanted to do it, but it's very dependent upon the people who actually anchor the workplace, that location. So until there's something reproductive about what's happening here, say somebody gets really into it here and then they get transferred, that's the possibility.
I see.
We're not trying to franchise this. This is something that grows locally.
Okay. So what can we do as a 1 Million Cups community to support you?
I'm going to hand out invitations. Love it if you could come.